you guys know, okay, every week we bring you something new, a new topic to touch upon. And this week we thought, okay, Acha, we have like tackled so many tech related topics, so many topics like non-tech se tech pe kisna jana hai. We talked about taxes and we talked about everything that is really beneficial to your career, and what technical side we were touching on in everything. But I think one main crucial thing that we are yet to touch upon is mental health. And it's very important. Can we talk about it? It's very important. Can we talk about the practices that can, contribute into our mental well-being? And for that reason, today we have Alina Rashid. So she joined us as a psychologist and corporate trainer here at DevZing. Before, Alina, I get too passionate about the topic and we get into this conversation. Let's just first have your introduction. Tell me, how did you end up here at Dipsing, and also like being in this field, how did it you spark interest in this, and you kind of like pursued it. So really.
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me here and, to talk about this sensitive topic that people don't usually, really touch. I really started my journey 7.5 years ago when I became a psychologist. Then I took learning as an ongoing opportunity and a process. So I, kept learning from here and then doing different kind of certifications. Amid all of that learning journey for me, I always, wanted to be somebody who could, I think, impart knowledge of emotional health and resilience to corporates, because that's the culture we have in Pakistan, and so many employers, less businessmen. So this is something that I think can really make a change. So that's what sparked my interest in psychology. And uh, being a corporate trainer was kind of my dream job. So when I got to know about this position that DevSing was hiring a corporate wellness consultant slash psychologist, so I just applied, and then it was a lucky day.
Well, we are so grateful to have you on board. And, here at Dipsing, one thing that we always talk about is, taking your mental health with you. So it's
Yeah.
not always about work. And, corporate landscape is complex and it can get tricky to navigate your emotions and then also your productivity. So, Acha, that gives us our first question actually. So most of our, audience is young graduates, and so they are really entering this landscape without having any prior experience,
Yeah.
and so corporate is very different from university, schools, and college. It's a very different world. You have your colleagues that are like so many years older than you, and then there are some colleagues that are so younger than you. So navigating even people is a complex thing. So I would like to ask you, okay, how do you strike a balance between, so your productivity and your mental health? Because again, let me preface this, okay, as a young graduate, you want to do so good, you want to prove yourself, you belong in this space. Okay, I think you kind of let go of your own mental well-being, because आप काम पे इतना focused होते हो. So how do you do that? How do you find that balance?
I think in order to strike a balance between any two things, you first have to be receptive of the idea that two things have to coexist simultaneously, right? So हमारे यहाँ पे तो culture ये है कि for even for especially for the fresh graduates, that people don't really take mental well-being into consideration. उनको होता है कि अच्छा we have to prove ourselves, we have to do a lot in limited amount of time so that we get seen, and we get heard, and we get into the a space where people are encouraging us and promoting us. So that's the kind of culture that people really come up with into a corporate culture. Okay, this is what we want to attain. Goals ही set नहीं होते, that we have to be careful about our mental well-being as well. So I think for starters, you need to be receptive of the idea that along with productivity, mental well-being is something that is going to take us to the level that we want to achieve. क्योंकि for example, if you're doing 3 tasks in a day, ठीक है, or maybe 10 tasks in a day, but you don't have that idea in your mind कि मैंने अपनी emotional well-being, अपनी mental well-being, अपनी resilience, अपनी bouncing back capability को भी intact रखना है, and I just don't have to get myself frustrated कि अच्छा, that's not the only goal, that I have to complete 10 tasks in a day. Goal should be, how can I achieve these 10 tasks while keeping my mental well-being intact? So if you have that idea, then maybe you can, think about strategies which you can enforce, or in order to foster a mental well-being space where everything is, in a balance. So if I ask you a question, if you're given 10 tasks in a day, what's the first question that you ask yourself?
Hmm. I think if I am given, 10 tasks a day, I'll first ask myself, अच्छा ठीक है, how am I going to align it? How will I, मैं किस तरह करूँगी? I'll give myself deadlines. कि अच्छा ठीक है, 10 tasks है, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I'm going to do, and this is what I'm going to do. So yeah, that's
So,
basically what I'll do.
so while asking yourself that question, do you ever think about that point, कि अच्छा, if I'm not able to complete these 10 tasks in one day, maybe, so what kind of emotional toll will I take back home with me? And what are the things I can do if I'm not able to complete these 10 tasks? Do you have that roadmap with you? Of course not.
Ah,
The
yeah, of
question,
course not. Yes.
because the question that you're asking yourself is, how can I align these 10 tasks? Not how can I complete these 10 tasks while keeping my mental well being intact. So, your
Yes.
brain is really going to give you the answers to the questions that you're asking yourself. So, if you ask the right question, you're most probably going to get the right answer. But if that's the question you're asking yourself, that I have to finish these tasks, and how can I do that? So, that's the answer that the brain is going to give it to you. So, us answer में ना mental well-being कहीं पे भी नहीं होगी. So I think in order
Mm-hmm.
to strike a balance, you first need to be receptive of the idea that two things have to coexist at once. And secondly, you have to ask yourself the right questions. कि मैं कैसे ये कर सकता हूँ?
Wow, that was honestly an eye-opening thing because it caught me off guard. So again, you exist in a corporate landscape. I do exist in a corporate landscape, and so my job is obviously a bit different than yours. And with it gets really fast-paced, and especially jo IT industry, it itself is such a fast-paced world. You need to, whether you are even in marketing, you have a non-tech role or you have a tech role, you have to get onto it. So really you just push yourself to the side, and every ability that will make the work done for you, aap usko bas aage lekar आओगे. So your mental health is like somewhere like behind you. Okay, so coming from this was again such a good advice, Alina. uh, we basically, अब जो हम fresh graduates हैं, हमारी यूनिवर्सिटी का एक इस तरह का सिस्टम होता है कि सो वी हैव लाइक हर सेमेस्टर में वी हैव सम कोर्सेज, उन क्रेडिट आवर्स को वी हैव टू गेट डन विद देम, एंड सो एक जो प्रैक्टिस हमारी बनी हुई है, दैट इज टू डू वर्क, सबमिट इट, वर्क एंड सबमिट इट. सो दिस काइंड ऑफ लाइक सेट्स अप फॉर हमारा वो पैटर्न क्रिएट हो जाता है, एंड देन दिस इज व्हाट वी टेक इनटू द कॉर्पोरेट वर्ल्ड एज वेल. एंड सिंस हमें यूनिवर्सिटी से वी आर सो यूज टू के टू गेट द वर्क डन, एंड हमें हमेशा से वो एक थोड़ा सा हमारे ग्रेड्स एक तरह से हमारे वो मैट्रिक्स बन जाते हैं टू काइंड ऑफ डिफाइन हाउ वेल वी आर डूइंग. सो एज अ यंग ग्रेजुएट जिसने अब बाहर निकलना है, राइट, उसको शायद अगेन एज यू सेड कि उसको राइट क्वेश्चंस अपने साथ मतलब पूछने की आदत ही नहीं किसी ने डाली. And so when he's out there, and the job market is very competitive, and especially in IT, it's a very competitive market, and everybody's really just out there struggling to fit somewhere. So how do you then deal with these rejections? How do you get that answer? Okay, you're not the fit for us, and then go home with it. How do you not take it personally? How do you do that?
Well, again, I'm going to ask you another question. If I ask
Okay.
you to imagine that you're trying to open a door, so what kind of picture comes to your mind?
I think just me standing near a door, trying to just open it. Maybe it's not opening, but really trying hard.
So the modality of trying is that you're just trying. It's not open yet. But if I ask you that,
Yeah.
imagine you're opening a door, what comes to your mind?
Okay. That's tricky. I think again I'll be like, so trying. Okay, probably
No,
having
no, no,
my.
you're opening the door. You're opening the door.
Okay.
So what comes to
Okay.
your mind then?
Um. So I
Is the door
think,
open?
yeah, a bit, not fully, a bit.
A bit, but still a bit. A bit is
Yeah.
something. So when we face
Yeah.
rejection, our mind basically thinks in terms of pictures, right? If I ask you to,
Yeah.
if I talk about a rose, तो आपके दिमाग में रोज के स्पेलिंग्स नहीं आते. कुछ लोगों के
Yeah.
दिमाग में उसकी स्मेल आ जाएगी, but mostly it's the pictures that you think in, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
ड्रेसिंग के बारे में बात करेंगे तो मेरे दिमाग में सबसे पहले बिल्डिंग आती है, right?
Yes.
Because
Yes.
that's the representation of DevSync for most people, right?
Yes.
सो जब आप बात करते हैं ना रिजेक्शन की, सो अ लॉट ऑफ
Hmm.
पीपल हैव अ मेंटल इमेजरी ऑफ व्हाट रिजेक्शन सीम्स टू देम. For me,
Hmm.
I think rejection means that I'm not capable of doing something. I'm not
Hmm.
capable
Yeah.
of, managing my own capabilities. That's what rejection
Hmm.
means to me. So if I
Hmm.
close my eyes and I imagine what rejection is, yeah, if I feel rejected, that's the mental imagery that is going to come to my mind, right? So we have to collect those mental images. Your brain actually cannot differentiate between a real image, an imagined
Hmm.
image, or an image from a dream. That is why
Hmm.
we wake up frightened at night when we are having a nightmare, because the
Yeah.
unconscious mind, which is basically at the the core of our thinking patterns, cannot differentiate कि जो आप image सोच रहे हैं, वो आप imagine कर रहे हैं, वो आपकी memories में से आई है, वो आपकी dreams में से है, वो क्या है. So when we
Hmm.
think in terms of images, and now imagine that somebody rejected you over something, maybe your work
Hmm.
at all, and then आपके
Hmm.
दिमाग में तस्वीर क्या आ रही है उस rejection की. So that
Hmm.
picture is gonna decide what kind of emotions do you face. So
Hmm.
first you have to evaluate कि ये जो picture आई है मेरे दिमाग में, ये जो criteria मैंने set किया हुआ है that this is what rejection is it actually true?
Hmm.
If I call you a giraffe, would that make you a giraffe? No. So,
No.
yeah, right? So if somebody is rejecting me over something, that means that he has a different criteria for rejection and I have a different criteria for rejection.
Hmm.
So I am not gonna, decide my fate over somebody else's criteria of rejection. So first, you need to evaluate कि आपका criteria क्या है rejection का. और उनका क्राइटेरिया क्या है रिजेक्शन का. देन comes the second part where your brain can actually focus on one thing at a time, no matter how much multitasking we try to do in one time,
Yeah.
right? But आपका जो unconscious mind है, which is the actual player in a game, that can only focus on one thing at a time. So either you can focus on the problem or you can focus on the solution. Again, I'll bring you back to the same point that I made earlier. कि what kind of questions are you asking your brain?
Hmm.
Are you
Hmm.
asking कि मैं रिजेक्ट क्यों हो गया, या मेरे अंदर ऐसी कौन सी कमी थी कि मैं रिजेक्ट हो गया. अब आपने, if you're asking yourself this question, then what kind of answers your brain is going to give you? It's
Hmm.
going to dig up all the insecurities that you have, all the inconsistencies that you have in your personality, because at the end of the day आपने सवाल क्या पूछा है कि मेरी
Hmm.
पर्सनैलिटी में मेरे अंदर ऐसी कौन सी कमी है जिसकी वजह से मैं रिजेक्ट हो गया. तो वही जवाब मिलेगा.
Hmm.
वो निकालेगा
Hmm.
deep down from under the trunk. It's gonna come up with answers. But if you ask
Hmm.
yourself the question, okay, I got rejected, but what are the things that I can do to improve this?
Hmm.
Then what kind of
Hmm.
answers are you going to get from your brain? Obviously, the
Hmm.
positive ones. So,
Yes.
thinking pattern means a lot. It matters a lot. तो आप जो
Hmm.
सवाल करेंगे अपने दिमाग से, your brain is going to come up with relevant answers. तो you have the
Hmm.
nobody
Hmm.
else has the control over you. आपका remote control आपके पास है. So you have
Hmm.
to decide where you're going to go ahead with the questions you ask yourself. So if you have a proactive approach,
Hmm.
you have to ask yourself the right questions.
Okay, nice. That again, it all comes down to how do you talk to yourself? What are
Exactly.
you putting in your brain really?
And the
Um.
internal dialogue that you
Hmm.
have, sorry for cutting you, the internal dialogue that
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
have is the only thing that matters when you talk about your
Hmm.
personal growth. The only thing that
Hmm.
matters, because your thoughts, your words have energy, actual
Yeah.
physical energy, which most people don't know about. But हमने
Hmm.
physics में पढ़ा था ना, kinetic energy,
Hmm.
potential
Yeah.
energy,
Yeah.
and energy get does not get destroyed. It can only be converted from one form to another form. So
Yeah.
your thoughts actually have energy. हर चीज जो generate हो रही है ना, उसकी energy है, which energy के साथ generate हो रही है, because वो किसी और चीज से generate हो रही है. आपको
Hmm.
emotions आए, उस emotion ने एक thought pattern generate किया, तो उसकी energy है. So that
Yeah.
energy is going to transcend down your body. तो आप जो बात भी
Yeah.
अपने साथ करेंगे ना, your body is going to take that as a line on the rock.
Yeah. अच्छा, एक चीज वैसे I have also noticed working in corporate and also like even university life में भी so when you get so overwhelmed now your mind is a mess, so of course you are going to get overwhelmed, उसमें negative emotions probably will take the win, you'll ultimately feel कि हाँ ठीक है, you're not good enough, yeah, if this happens the worst will happen to you. But I guess making taking a step back, giving yourself the space to actually navigate okay, acha, what am I thinking, what do I want out of this situation, and then like probably even just vocalizing it to yourself, it kind of like you kind of start believing it. Acha, theek hai, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to do this. You kind of like push that mindset into yourself, and I think that is very important, and especially इतना encourage किया जाता नहीं है because mostly so texting is a corporate जहाँ again we're always talking about कि mental health के बारे में बात करनी है, हम different sessions कराते हैं, and we're not tooting any horn here, it's just कि it is what the case is. But also Alina, there are corporate cultures जो कि that are very toxic, and there's a lot of micromanagement there as well. And so what would you advise to those individuals जिनके ऊपर काफी micromanagement, and we talked about we were talking we had this question about कि narcissists बहुत ज्यादा होते हैं because again वर्क प्लेस में यू कैंट रियली आइडेंटिफाई, मतलब आप रोल्स एक दूसरे को आइडेंटिफाई कर रहे होते हो, बट इफ यू रियली एक्चुअली पीक इनटू द पर्सनालिटीज दैट आल्सो स्पीक्स हाउ दे यूज देयर रोल, you know
Hmm.
so if you have somebody that is continuously on the go to sabotage you, or probably is exerting pressure on you that is getting hard for you to take, and also pushing some sort of imposter syndrome on yourself कि maybe मैं ही अच्छा नहीं कर पा रही,
Hmm.
even though I'm putting it out there to that person,
Hmm.
then how do you deal with that, because again it gets very complex in a corporate environment.
So my approach is mostly based on the central nervous system work, right? So we call
Mm-hmm.
it regulation. So basically, all of
Mm-hmm.
us that we have this brain and then we have this spinal cord, and then both of these are connected, right? So people out
Mm-hmm.
there who don't know much about it, I'm gonna put it into a layman language that आपको anxiety, stress, हर चीज तब होती है when you have this criteria set in your mind कि this is acceptable, this is not acceptable, this is success, this is failure. You have your criterias, right?
Mm-hmm.
You think in poles. Polarity है ना?
Mm-hmm.
This is right, this is
Mm-hmm.
wrong. White, this is black. This is ugly, this
Yeah.
is beautiful, right? So हमने अपने दिमाग में बचपन से हमारा जो brought up का तरीका है या हमारा कल्चर है, I'm not only talking about Pakistan. This is worldwide. जिस तरीके
Yeah.
से भी बड़ा किया जा रहा है, that brought up kind of sets specific patterns in our brain, right?
Mm-hmm.
तो जब भी कोई ऐसी या लेट्स से आपके फोबियाज होते हैं, कुछ लोगों को पानी से डर लगता है, कुछ लोगों को हाइट से डर
Yeah.
लगता है, तो मोस्ट प्रॉबली उनके साथ उनके बचपन में कोई ना कोई इस तरह का इंसिडेंट हुआ होता है या उन्होंने देखा होता है या न्यूज़ में सुना होता है, समथिंग लाइक दैट, जिसकी वजह से आपके अनकॉन्शियस माइंड में एक डर या एक वहम बैठ जाता है कि ओके वाटर और हाइट्स आर रियली डेंजरस, राइट?
Yeah.
तो वो जो क्राइटेरिया आपके दिमाग में फिट हो गया है ना, व्हेन यू वर अ
Mm-hmm.
चाइल्ड, व्हेन यू वर जस्ट नॉट द एज दैट यू आर राइट नाउ, that kind of defines how you would feel later in your life regarding it. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I'll give you an
Yeah.
example. Let's say somebody has a height phobia. So
Mm-hmm.
now whenever that person is gonna go to a height, usko kya hoga? He's gonna be exposed with anxiety,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Overwhelming body responses. वो कैसे
Yes.
आते हैं? वो ऐसे आते हैं because when you encounter a situation that you're scared of, your unconscious mind sends a signal to your central nervous system that something, you're in a danger, something dangerous is around you, something which is not acceptable by you, something that you cannot tolerate, you're in that situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Central nervous system आपकी आपके लिए वो anxiety इतनी ज़्यादा होती है that your central nervous system cannot actually contain it. So it
Mm-hmm.
starts getting that energy out in terms of symptoms. So you start
Mm-hmm.
having those shaky hands and shaky limbs, and your pasina aane lag jata hai, hot and cold flushes aana lag jate hain. So all of these are symptoms of anxiety or distress, right? So ये मैंने आपको एक बहुत basic example दी है ताकि सबको समझ आ सके. So what's really happening in a corporate setup when people are hindering your growth or you're dealing with narcissistic personality इज दैट कि वो आपको कुछ इस तरीके से आपके उसका उनके साथ एक्सपोजर इस तरह से होता है या कुछ इस तरह की सिचुएशंस में यू फाइंड योरसेल्फ दैट triggers that response in your brain that something
Yeah.
is unacceptable. Oh, this means that I am a subordinate. right? Oh, that
Mm-hmm.
person is
Yes.
insulting me. And now, obviously, insult has a very wrong connotation to it.
Yes.
तो जिस
Yes.
तरह वो हाइट फोबिया वाले इंसान को हाइट पे जाके ट्रिगर्ड अ रिस्पॉन्स. So similarly, when you're dealing with insult, rejection, a difficult personality, stress, so that kind of triggers a response in your central nervous system, due to which आपकी body overwhelm हो जाती है. Either you start getting angry, or you start getting anxious, or you start getting restless or exhausted or frustrated, anything. So you have to understand the basic framework behind it all, that any experience of emotions or bodily sensations that you're experiencing, they're coming from a certain behavior or a situation. Now, the goal here is not to change that situation first, it's to change the way your body is responding to that situation. सिचुएशन को
Okay.
यू कैन नॉट ऑलवेज चेंज, राइट? कुछ इस तरह के
Yes.
सिनेरियोज होते हैं,
Mm-hmm.
वही कैंडला में इमेजिन अगर आपका सीईओ ही इस तरह का है कि वो बहुत ज्यादा स्पेस नहीं दे रहा ग्रो करने के लिए, तो आप सीईओ को तो चेंज नहीं कर सकते. यू कैन ओनली चेंज योर जॉब, बट यू कैन नॉट चेंज द सीईओ, राइट?
Yes.
So
Yes.
you have to, the goal here is that you have to change the way you react or respond to the situation. Now uske liye the most important thing is that you have to learn self regulation. Self
Okay.
regulation is when you try to calm your body down, when you try to tone your thoughts down, when you try to take the alternative perspective. वो जो मैंने बात की थी ना कि your brain can only focus on one thing at a time, या तो problem होगा
Yeah.
या solution होगा. So जब आप वो
Yes.
overwhelm होना शुरू हो जाता है ना, when you start feeling कि अच्छा my body is getting overwhelmed, my thoughts are getting overwhelmed, and I've got a chip on my shoulder कि मैं अब नहीं कुछ और कर सकता, and I have
Mm.
to deal with this regardless of my mental health. That's the time when you actually need to realize that you have to self regulate first. Self regulation के
Mm.
सारे तरीके हैं. You can do deep breathing, ठीक है? All you have
Mm.
to do is just sit back, breathe in from
Mm.
your nose, and exhale from your mouth. And while doing that, you tell yourself that I can do this. Okay?
Mm.
Nobody's taking control over me. I'm in control of my thoughts and my body, and I'm gonna be okay in just 5 to 10 minutes. And I'm gonna just take this time for myself, breathe in and breathe out, and things are going to go smooth for me. So you see what I've done here. I've done self affirmations, and then I've
Yeah.
done breathing. So both of
Mm.
these things. अब now वो जो internal dialogue की मैंने पहले बात की थी ना कि your
Yeah.
body is listening to the internal talk that you're having with yourself.
Yeah.
So when I'm giving myself positive self affirmations, my body is listening to me, right?
Yes.
And I'm doing a deep breathing exercise. So my body is also trying
Mm.
to get sync with my thoughts. So
Mm.
instantly आपका within for starters थोड़ा सा time लगता है इस habit को form होने में. But if you
Yeah.
start doing it regularly, उससे होगा क्या सुहा कि आपकी जो बॉडी है ना, that will start toning down, that will start getting more aligned with your thoughts, ठीक है? It will start to regulate.
Mm.
तो जब आप रेगुलेट
Mm.
करेंगे, जब आप अपने सेंट्रल नर्वस सिस्टम को ये बता देंगे कि या आई एम फेसिंग एंजाइटी और overwhelming emotions, but I'm in control of them, that is when
Mm.
your brain is going to stop fearing that situation, and that
Yeah.
is when the room for growth will emerge. कि
Yeah.
अच्छा मैं अब इसको हैंडल कर सकता हूँ, दिस इज a space where I can deal with these emotions, with these
Mm.
situations. And now when I'm able to deal with the situation, I can do something which can, help me
Mm.
not get exposure to this situation.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think one thing I'm also getting from this is to be patient with yourself because, again, anxiety or even feeling depressed is, it's very overwhelming, especially अगर आपने इस चीज़ को पहले encounter नहीं किया अपनी life में. So you really don't understand how to deal with it. And so to be able to, find that peace again that you have had prior to, facing these issues, you get impatient. कि नहीं, I want to feel fine, बहुत जल्दी. Like I want to feel fine in a मुझे अब I no longer want to work on this. I want to get rid of these emotions. But we really need to understand that at the end of the day, we're not a machine. We're humans. ठीक है? We have these real emotions. So we need to give ourselves some time. and be consistent with these practices. Because again, even in my personal life, I've saying affirmations is something that is, बहुत ज्यादा उसको डिस्कस किया जाता है सोशल मीडिया पे, उसको सेलिब्रेट किया जाता है कि say this out to yourself. And so with me, मेरे साथ एक दो दफा ये हुआ कि I stood in front of my mirror and I tried saying it, बस मैंने फिर एक दो दिन बोला, ठीक है. But then I understood कि नहीं, ये एक दो दिन की प्रैक्टिस नहीं है. I need to be there every day for myself, and I need to show up for myself ताकि I see that change in myself.
Yeah, that's the
Nobody's
commitment
going to
you
do
need
that.
to make yourself, right? In order, if you want to
Yeah.
grow internally and then in your profession as well, because eventually जो अंदर चल रहा है ना वही you're gonna take it along with yourself. You can only go so far,
Hmm.
right? You can only take
Yeah.
something so far जहाँ तक आप खुद जा सकते हो. So if you don't
Yeah.
have that kind of space for growth, तो आप
Yeah.
professionally भी grow नहीं करोगे. You need to learn
Exactly.
a few things in order to, at the end of the day, you're in charge of your own self. You're responsible and
Exactly.
accountable for yourself. So if you are encountering a few things, those could be emotions, those could be situations, those could be behaviors. So there's nothing in this world that is not, solvable or fixable. So you can
Hmm.
all, and I always try to give this perspective to my clients that when you face a problem, when you make a mistake, so that's really not a mistake and a problem. For problems, it's an opportunity for you to learn how to fix it.
Hmm.
So you
Yeah.
might be able to learn a new skill. And for mistakes, it's always an opportunity for you to learn what can I do better next time in order to avoid this mistake. So again, you're learning something. So every
Yeah.
mistake, every problem is a learning opportunity for you.
Yeah.
So that's it. And one thing that I would like to add here is that we're talking about new recruits, right? New fresh
Yeah.
graduates, let's say.
Yes.
We're talking about the corporate culture, right? So a
Yeah.
lot of responsibility falls on the corporate culture and corporate setting as well for
Yes.
helping the employees to
Yeah.
have that kind of intellectual growth. So
Yeah.
DevSing, I would say, is a very good organization which is very much integrative and is very employee centric, where it focuses a lot on how the employees are growing professionally as well as personally.
Yes. Exactly.
This is
Yes.
something which I've only seen in DevSing. Not a lot of
Hmm.
organizations have that. Organizations
Yes.
आपको अर्न लीव दे देंगी, आपको सिक लीव्स दे देंगी, कैजुअल लीव्स दे देंगी, आपको फैसिलिटेट कर देंगे कि हाँ ठीक है आपके घर में कोई बीमार है तो यू कैन टेक अ मंथ ऑफ, राइट. दैट्स वेरी
Hmm.
एडमिरेबल. आई मतलब
Hmm.
नेकियों को काउंट करना चाहिए. सो आई वुडंट से कि ये कोई बुरी चीज़ है. इट्स अ वेरी गुड
Ex-
इनिशिएटिव दैट दे टेकिंग. बट एट द
yes.
सेम टाइम आर यू डूइंग समथिंग टू help that individual deal with the mental baggage that he's taking back home?
Hmm.
Because
Exactly.
eventually, that employee is your company's employee, and he's doing the
Yes.
job to facilitate your company. And if he's not well
Exactly.
prepared, he cannot do any well on the system.
Exactly.
So if you're really employee centric, तो आपका ये अप्रोच आपकी कि you're offering trainings to them. और वो ट्रेनिंग सिर्फ ये नहीं है कि आप उनको फील्ड रिलेटेड ट्रेनिंग्स दे दें, आप उनको ये सप्लाई चेन मैनेजर को आप ये सिखा दें कि हाउ टू
Hmm.
सेल एट योर जॉब, राइट. आप
Yeah.
हर तरह के एम्प्लॉयज को ये सिखाए ना कि हाउ टू मेडिटेट, हाउ टू रिलीज योर
Hmm.
स्ट्रेस इन अ प्रोडक्टिव वे, हाउ टू चैनल योर एंगर इन अ गुड वे. ठीक है, यू
Yeah.
टीच.
Hmm.
बिकॉज़ ये जिन लोगों की हम बात कर रहे हैं ना कि जो फ्रेश ग्रेजुएट्स हैं हमारे पास, जो यूनिवर्सिटी से आ रहे हैं, जिनका फर्स्ट जॉब
Hmm.
एक्सपीरियंस डेवसिंक है या कोई भी कॉर्पोरेट कल्चर है, दे रियली
Hmm.
डोंट हैव द एक्सपोज़र.
Exactly.
ठीक है. इफ आई
Hmm.
टॉक अबाउट माय सेल्फ, आई एम 8 years deep into my profession, right?
Yeah.
7.5 to
Hmm.
8. So I've worked in multiple organizations where I know and now understand that every organization has a different culture.
Yes.
हम
Yes.
पाकिस्तान में बात करें तो एक स्टेट कल्चर भी है, एक कॉर्पोरेट कल्चर भी है, एक हॉस्पिटल सेटिंग भी है, एक स्कूल सेटिंग भी है, और हर जगह की डिफरेंट रिक्वायरमेंट्स हैं और आपकी जॉब
Hmm.
डिस्क्रिप्शन फ़र्क है. बट एट द सेम
Hmm.
टाइम what are the professional skills and etiquettes that I'm taking along with myself which are going to help me
Hmm.
grow professionally? उसकी
Yes.
responsibility partially is on the employee and
Yes.
partially it's on the employer. Because at the end
Yes.
of the day, if I am moving somewhere else from DevSync, then I am
Hmm.
taking the name of DevSync with myself. And the employer, the next employer, if he finds me professional enough, तो he might also think about DevSync कि अच्छा ये DevSync से आई है तो इनका तो hiring criteria बहुत अच्छा होगा, या
Yes.
DevSync ने अपने employees पे मेहनत की है. They've taught
Exactly.
their employees कि आपने mental well-being को कैसे लेके चलना है या
Hmm.
ethics को किस तरह लेके चलना है.
Hmm.
So part of that responsibility also falls on the corporate.
Yes. And also, like, वी ऑलवेज हम लोग काफी आपस में भी एम्प्लॉयज वगैरह हम भी बात कर रहे थे कि यू डेडिकेटिंग बेसिकली 40 आवर्स ऑफ आप अपने पूरे वीक के 40 आवर्स एक जगह डेडिकेट कर रहे हो, यू शोइंग
More
अप एवरी
time that is
मॉर्निंग.
spent at home.
Yeah, exactly. And आप रात को घर जा रहे हो, ठीक है, no matter what the timing is, you have dedicated 8 hours and you're showing up daily there and you're working with those people, daily. So not every day is a productive day, not every day you're going to show up and do your best job. So it really depends on the corporate that how does it make you feel for not being able to do the best on some days. So sometimes हो सकता है कि you make mistakes, sometimes maybe there's something going back at home and नहीं हो पा रहा आपसे, you can't really manage and you can't be professional. So have those open doors and be the comfort of the employees. And I feel like कि यही सबसे best part है कि especially here at Debson, जो मैंने personally चीज notice की है, कि having a psychologist here, having a doctor here, having a gym trainer here, I know कि no matter, even if I am in a desperate need, I will have these outlets where I can express myself according to my need. And I feel like if corporates start doing it, that will really help these employees that are really dedicating their time and majority of time of their days there. So we were talking about professional and personal growth, right? Again, that can be very tricky to navigate because एक वही कॉर्पोरेट का भी टैबू यही है कि बस आप इधर काम करने ही आते हो, देयर इज रियली नो पर्सनल लाइफ एनीमोर. Once you're part of this dynamic, this ecosystem, that is what it is. So what are the practices that you feel like, Alina, will ensure कि आपकी personal growth and आपकी professional growth simultaneously हो रही है साथ साथ?
Let's talk about the personal growth first. Personal growth
Yes.
means if you're coming to a corporate culture, ठीक है, there's a corporate setting which you're working in. What kind of things do you have in your mind that you're gonna take with you at home? ठीक है, क्या सीख
Mm-hmm.
रहे हो आप? Are you working on your internal growth? What are the goals that you
Mm-hmm.
have? For example,
Mm-hmm.
my goal would be to to help an organization become trauma informed,
Mm-hmm.
psychological first aid trained. ठीक है, psychological first aid in terms के if there is an employee sitting right next to you and he or she is having a panic attack and the in-house
Yeah.
psychologist is not available, what are the things that you can do
Yes.
just momentarily to facilitate that person to get out of that panic attack, right? How to talk to that
Mm-hmm.
person. So then trauma informed is not that the person is suffering from any trauma, but just that you
Yeah.
need to talk and speak in a way that does not trigger the insecurities or any kind of trauma that the person has been through, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then my goal would be to um, uh, make the organization emotionally informed as well. Emotional intelligence is
Yeah.
something organizations don't really put their heads to. So
Yeah.
the organization very well versed on emotional intelligence rather than just focused on hiring good bunch of employees. So these are the things that I have. अब मेरी ये तो चलो प्रोफेशनल गोल्स हो गए ना आपके, बट इफ यू
Yeah.
ब्रेक, what are the things that you need to do in order to excel at those goals? Now
Mm-hmm.
I have to learn myself. I'll have to
Yeah.
grow as well, right? So am I taking any new certifications or trainings to just learn new things myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a marketing executive, okay,
Yeah.
so are you learning any new things from this job or is this job been monotonous for you कि आप वही काम कर रहे हो जो आप पहले दिन से करते आए हो? So let's say somebody
Yeah.
has years of experience, ठीक है,
Yeah.
and अब वो उन 10 years में that person has gone savvy कि अच्छा ये काम ऐसे होगा, ये काम ऐसे होगा, ये काम ऐसे होगा, it's that one person of that organization जिसको जब किसी को भी कोई भी मसला होता है तो you reach out to that person कि okay, go to that falana person and that's he's gonna tell you how to do it.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But during those 10 years, has he adapted to the new trends in marketing, right?
Mm-hmm.
How to use
Mm-hmm.
a few new technologies, yeah, let's say apps,
Mm-hmm.
ठीक है,
Yeah.
तो ट्रांजिशन की है उसने अपने कोई स्किल्स की या नहीं की, बिकॉज एट द एंड ऑफ द डे व्हेन यू आर स्टैंडिंग इन फ्रंट ऑफ एनी एम्प्लॉयर, तो वो आपकी अब वो ट्रेंड ना थोड़ा थोड़ा खत्म हो गया दैट पीपल लुक इनटू योर सीवी.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so the
Mm-hmm.
CV is just a piece of paper which is gonna tell you that क्या ट्रेनिंग है, क्या सर्टिफिकेशन है, कितनी पब्लिकेशंस हैं, और आपने पढ़ा कहाँ
Hmm.
हुआ है और क्या पढ़ा हुआ है। बट इवेंचुअली
Hmm.
यू आर गोइंग टू go to the interview and talk to the person who's taking your interview, your skills are going to speak, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So आपने उस पे क्या मेहनत की है? How is
Hmm.
communication on the first day of joining, and how is it at the 360?
Hmm.
What have you learned? So
Hmm.
you need to keep a track. कि जब first day आया था, so this was my skill set. And now I've been here for a year. So has there been any new addition in my skill set? उसका फायदा ना ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से ज्यादा आपको होगा, बिकॉज यू आर गोना टेक दो सेट ऑफ स्किल्स विद यू व्हेन यू मूव टू अनदर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, और व्हेन यू आर climbing a ladder in the same organization. Because वही बात है ना कि अब दो साइकोलॉजिस्ट हैं लेट्स से, और एक मीटिंग चल रही है, और उनमें से एक जो है शी इज रियली वोकल अबाउट ऑल द थिंग्स, ऑल द एजेंडाज, ऑल द कंसर्न्स, ऑल द
Yeah.
सजेशंस. One is just tagging along, yeah, she's right. So the
Yeah.
manager is going to notice the one who's speaking, not the one who's
Yes.
tagging along. सो
Yes.
आपने अपनी पर्सनल ग्रोथ के लिए क्या गोल सेट किए हैं? डू यू टेक दिस इनटू अकाउंट कि अच्छा, आई नीड टू लर्न अ फ्यू न्यू थिंग्स, आई नीड टू बी वोकल एंड कम्युनिकेटिव एंड एक्सप्रेसिव? सो ये चीजें पर्सनल ग्रोथ में आ जाती हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, देयर इज अ रील गोइंग ऑन इंस्टाग्राम दीज डेज के हाउ टू से दिस प्रोफेशनली, हाउ टू से दैट प्रोफेशनली.
Oh yes. 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 Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
really informative. So have
Yes,
you
it is. Yeah.
things? Because when you come to a organization जहाँ पे आप emails के ऊपर interact कर रहे हैं, in person कर
Yeah.
रहे हैं, जिस पे भी कर रहे हैं, so how you speak,
Hmm.
how you put your ideas down there really matters. So
Hmm.
have you been learning new things? That's for your personal growth. Now
Yes.
professional goals के अंदर बात दोबारा से वो trainings पे आ जाती है कि um, a lot of organizations offer this to their employees कि आप ये training आपका जो भी दिल करता है वो आप कर लो, and then we'll
Hmm.
pay for it. So that's one thing. And then there are other
Hmm.
organizations which tells you that this is the training that we're offering, and you can take this. राइट?
Hmm.
आपको खुद से नहीं ढूँढनी पड़ती। बट आपकी पर्सनल और प्रोफेशनल ग्रोथ की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी सिर्फ़ उस कॉर्पोरेट के पास तो नहीं है ना, इट्स ओवर ओवर योर हेड एज़ वेल। तो
Yeah.
व्हाट आर यू लर्निंग? अगेन
Hmm.
वही बात आ जाती है, व्हाट आर द न्यू सेट ऑफ स्किल्स दैट यू आर लर्निंग? सो अब
Hmm.
मैं
Hmm.
साइकोलॉजिस्ट हूँ, कॉर्पोरेट ट्रेनर हूँ, मैं ट्रॉमा इन्फॉर्म्ड हूँ, साइकोलॉजिकल फर्स्ट एड इन्फॉर्म्ड हूँ, एनएलपी इन्फॉर्म्ड हूँ। ये सारी
Hmm.
चीज़ें कॉर्पोरेट्स ने या ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस ने तो नहीं कराई। I've done this on my
Exactly.
own. And then if I
Hmm.
need to sell in my field, then I need to keep on learning new skill sets ताकि so I
Hmm.
get savvy with the new trends that are coming up.
Hmm.
Okay?
Hmm.
So learning is an ongoing process both for your personal and professional growth. So if you want, लोग कहते हैं कि जी हमें opportunity नहीं मिली. When we ask them कि अच्छा what
Hmm.
kind of growth have you experienced in your profession over the past 3-4 years, then the
Hmm.
most common answer that I hear is that we didn't get any opportunity. So
Yeah.
when we're talking about professional growth, then our organization cannot give the same kind of opportunity to 2,000 people that it has.
Yeah.
You have to create response opportunities. ठीक है?
Yes.
से निकालनी है वो, आप ऐसे भी निकाल सकते हैं कि इन अ मीटिंग यू कैन बी यू कैन वेरी यू कैन पुट आउट योर आइडिया इन अ वेरी वेल फेस्ड वे. ठीक है? यू कैन टेक इनिशिएटिव फॉर समथिंग, यू कैन डू समथिंग
Hmm.
ऑन अ प्रो बोनो बेसिस इन एन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन कि अच्छा ये मैं कर लेता हूँ. सो नो पेन
Hmm.
नो गेन,
Yeah.
right? So
Yes.
you have to get out of your comfort zone in order to excel in your profession as well as when the personal growth is concerned.
Yes. And even in our previous sessions whenever we even talk about ना कि आप किस तरह से professionally किस तरह से आप grow कर सकते हो, how do you stand out. तो again हमेशा वही बात आई थी कि you never stop learning. Say yes. So even for your personal side, take that also. कि you need to learn. You need to invest in yourself because at the end of the day, especially if you want to thrive in this landscape, in this ecosystem, you need to stand out. You need to tell them, Kecha, why are you different than so many other thousand people that are applying for
Oh,
the
yeah,
same position?
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
So you need to market yourself in this manner. Okay, so this is what I have and this is what I can give, and this is why you need us. So tell them how are they missing out by not hiring you. So really just invest in yourself. Achha, one question that came into my mind as you were telling me about this इसके अच्छा, अगेन हमारे काफ़ी बिहेवियर्स जो होते हैं, जो हमारे काफ़ी पैटर्न्स होते हैं, वो रिफ्लेक्ट करते हैं कि हमारा चाइल्डहुड कैसा रह चुका है।
हुँ।
बिकॉज़ द वे आवर पेरेंट्स जिस तरह से उनने हमें बड़ा किया, द वे दे बेसिकली पेरेंट अस, वो हर किसी के घर में बहुत डिफरेंट होता है। सो वन थिंग आई नोटिस इवन एज़ अ किड वाज़ कि कुछ पेरेंट्स होते हैं जिनके बच्चे एक्स्ट्रा करिकुलर में बहुत ज़्यादा आगे होते हैं बिकॉज़ वो उस चीज़ में बहुत इन्वेस्ट करते हैं। सो दे मेक श्योर कि बाय इवनिंग दे टेक देम टू दीज़ कोर्सेज़, दे take them to these golf clubs, yeah, football practices and everything. So they show up and they are there. Then again, some parents होते हैं जो मे बी शायद फाइनेंशियल रिस्ट्रेंट्स होते हैं या कुछ भी होता है, उसमें ये हो जाता है कि दे डोंट डू दैट फॉर देयर किड्स, एंड ऑल्सो कुछ पेरेंट्स होते हैं जो कि खुद भी बहुत इंट्रोवर्टेड होते हैं और वही चीज वो अपने बच्चों में भी पुश करते हैं। अब उसका आउटकम अल्टीमेटली हमारी लेटर लाइफ में यही होता है। अब कुछ बच्चे बहुत कॉन्फिडेंट होते हैं, दे नो हाउ टू सेल देमसेल्व्स, दे नो हाउ टू एंगेज विद पीपल, दे नो हाउ टू टॉक विद देम। एंड देन कुछ बच्चे होते हैं जो कि मे बी उनके पास इक्वली वो स्किल सेट है, बट दे आर नॉट कॉन्फिडेंट, दे आर नॉट एक्सट्रोवर्टेड। एंड अगेन व्हेन आप इस चीज में एंटर हो रहे हो, कैसे लैंडस्केप में एंटर हो रहे हो, कॉर्पोरेट में एंटर हो रहे हो, आपने यू नीड टू शो अप टू द इंटरव्यू, यू नीड टू लुक कॉन्फिडेंट, स्पेशली इफ आई टॉक अबाउट मार्केटिंग स्पेशली, we need to be able to talk to people. Especially in dev saying we have to engage the employees because like we are there, we need to make sure that they feel at home. Okay? This is not आपका एक typical office नहीं है ये आपका। एंड सो उसके लिए मुझे ये स्किल सेट अडेप्ट करना पड़ता है कि आई एम आउट देयर, मैं लोगों से बात कर रही हूँ। सो अब वो जो लोग हैं, जो जिनकी अपब्रिंगिंग ऐसी हुई है, जिनने पैटर्न ही ये देखा है, हाउ डू दे काइंड ऑफ ब्रेक दिस पैटर्न फॉर देयर ओन गुड, एंड हाउ कैन दे जस्ट कम आउट ऑफ दिस शेल, बिकॉज दैट कैन बी आल्सो वेरी डिफिकल्ट, क्योंकि वो बड़े ही ऐसे हुए हैं।
देखो अगेन वही बात है कि जो आप बचपन से देखते आए हो, जो एक्सपीरियंस करते आए
हम्म।
हो, काइंड ऑफ सेट्स अ पर्टिकुलर पैटर्न इन योर हेड, और जो चीज़ भी उस पैटर्न के अगेंस्ट आती है, सो योर ब्रेन काइंड ऑफ ट्रिगर्स अ रिस्पॉन्स, और आपके सेंट्रल नर्वस सिस्टम पे इधर वो ओवरवेलमिंग रिस्पॉन्स है, एंजाइटी है,
हम्म।
हो जाती है। सो यू नीड टू अंडरस्टैंड दैट any fear is not going to go away unless you expose yourself to that fear. जो
या
माउंटेन ड्यू का है ना, डर के आगे जीत है।
डर के जीत है। या।
Yeah, that's the approach that you have to take. ठीक है, exposure is what is going to break that fear into pieces. So
या।
unless you get yourself out of your comfort zone, first चीज, सबसे पहली चीज तो ये ना कि that we need to realize that there is something that needs fixing. That
या।
you need to communicate and socialize with other people because other people are doing that and you're not doing that. So basically you're lagging behind. ठीक है।
हम्म।
और आजकल का तो कल्चर ही आप अपनी एम्प्लॉयमेंट की बात कर लो या फ्रेंडशिप की बात कर लो या रिलेशनशिप की बात कर लो, यू टॉक अबाउट एनीथिंग एंड वन कॉमन थिंग इज दैट कम्युनिकेशन इज द की। जो बोल लेता है उसके मसले कुछ हल हो जाते हैं, एंड समबडी हु इज नॉट
हम्म।
एबल टू सोशलाइज, हु इज नॉट एबल टू टेक दैट एक्सट्रोवर्ट अप्रोच, उसके लिए मसले जनरेट हो जाते हैं। So, seeing all of
या।
that, there is so many resources that are available even online these days that you can use to facilitate yourself in order to break out of that shell, right?
या।
I would suggest for such people कि अगर बहुत ज़्यादा anxiety या discomfort है and they're not able to get out of their that shell themselves, then consult a psychologist. There's no shame in that. अब वो टैबू खत्म हो गया है कि अच्छा, if I'm going to a psychologist that means I'm either a psychopath or mentally
या।
retarded. That's not the case here. Every now and then, every other person now and then comes see a psychologist. Okay, we
यस।
talk about dev thing. People who seem so happy, even they come for the therapeutic session. Why? Because still कोई ना कोई मसला चल रहा है जिसके ऊपर they might need to consult, right?
या।
No shame
या।
in seeing a psychologist. So if the shell is that firm कि अच्छा ठीक है, वो इतना firm नहीं है कि वो टूट सकता है खुद से, आप उससे बाहर आ सकते हैं by employing a few strategies, by thinking कि अच्छा no pain no gain and I have to get out of my comfort zone, then do it yourself, fine. और इसमें कुछ रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी साथ वालों की भी आ जाती है कि इफ यू हैव आइडेंटिफाइड सच अ पर्सन जिसको अपने शेल में से बाहर निकलने में मुश्किल आ रही है, तो यू कैन फैसिलिटेट दैट पर्सन बाय स्मॉल टॉक्स, बाय छोटे-छोटे उसको टाइम के लिए आप उसको ग्रुप सेटिंग में बिठा लें, कहीं बाहर खाना खाना चले जाएँ, हैव अ डिस्कशन विद देम रैंडम, और छोटी-छोटी डिस्कशन सो दैट उनके लिए भी बहुत ज़्यादा एक्सपोज़र एकदम से ना हो जाए। बट इफ यू आर नॉट एबल टू डू दैट योरसेल्फ, देन अवेल द सर्विसेज ऑफ अ साइकोलॉजिस्ट मे बी, ठीक है? बिकॉज़ दे कैन रियली इक्विप यू विद अ फ्यू स्ट्रैटेजी। Uh, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
I was saying कि अगर तो आप ये खुद नहीं कर सकते, then avail the services of a psychologist because they can really equip you with a few strategies जो आपके लिए सब कुछ बहुत आसान कर देंगे. Generic
Hmm.
एग्जाम्पल देना या टेक्निक्स बताना would be very easy, but I think हर बंदे का case is different. Every person is coming from a different background. I once had a client who had social anxiety. Why? Because when he was small, his mother used to tell him that, तुम हमेशा गलत बात करते हो, तुम हमेशा मेरी इंसल्ट करा देते हो, ठीक है?
Hmm.
एक्सपोजर तो मैं डायरेक्टली उस क्लाइंट को नहीं करा सकती बिकॉज इफ आई हैवंट वर्कड ऑन द कोर बिलीफ तो एक्सपोजर का कोई
Hmm.
फायदा नहीं होगा, राइट? सो
Hmm.
you need to see a psychologist if you're not able to break that cycle yourself. Then there's no shame in seeking help.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Again, वही वाली बात है कि अब तो we talk about mental health so much कि it is now, I think it's even your responsibility to get in touch with your emotions, and if you are not able to navigate it, then there are professionals out there,
Yeah.
seek help. And also अब तो everything is so accessible कि you can, आप counseling even over the phone कर सकते हो, and even if,
Trend has really gone viral after COVID.
yeah,
Before COVID,
yeah,
online consultations were not a thing, but now they are.
exactly. And with social media, so we talk about how much bad it does to us, but also it has done so much great to us because there are now psychologists and therapists that are speaking about it, that are keeping people in touch with, these are the problems you're potentially facing, and this is why you need somebody to counsel you out of it. So I feel like it's very important, and it doesn't really matter what age you are in. Having help and having therapy is never a bad idea. Acha,
Never.
khair, Alina, since almost we have gone by an hour at this point and really couldn't tell कि किस तरीके से time गुजर गया, but I would also want you to give us some advice, some last words to the people that are going to enter into this corporate landscape, and also some personal advice भी जो कि you feel like people should know to navigate their emotions better.
I would suggest everyone who's hoping to join a corporate culture and setting that come in with the skill set and with this thought in your mind that you have that skill set, and it's gonna take you a while to navigate through that culture and getting savvy with those skills, but you will eventually get there because how you talk to yourself really matters. Or psychology is about what's going on in there, so you have the control. You're your best psychologist. You know yourself the best, so all your insecurities, all the flaws that you think you have. Just focus on promoting yourself. Try to sell yourself out there in front of your own self. हम करते ये हैं कि हम बाकियों को अपनी तारीफ करके बता देते हैं, बट यहाँ पे हमें पता होता है कि नहीं नहीं, ये तो मैं नहीं कर सकती. So right,
Hmm.
ask yourself the right questions. Think, have that framework, mental framework, that you have all those skills, and even if you don't have, you have the capability of acquiring those skills. Okay? And then I would say no pain no gain. So getting out of the comfort zone is really important, but once you get out of your comfort zone, things do start, they seem easy.
Yeah.
और especially जब
Yeah.
आपके दिमाग में होता है ना that you can do that, then you actually can and you do that.
Yes. And again, with your body and with your work, mental health is something that you need to equally invest on. And just as you take care of your body, आपके दिमाग को भी उतनी ज़रूरत है उस चीज़ की. So
Hmm.
just make sure you do that. There's really no shame. There's really no कोई भी इसमें डरने की किसी को ज़रूरत नहीं होती, honestly. At the end of the day, we're not machines. We're humans. God made us like this.
Yeah,
And
and it's not a flaw. It's not your limitation that
yeah,
nobody's gonna hold it against you if you go to your
yeah,
employer and tell him, "Okay, I don't feel okay today. I've been under a
yeah,
lot of stress, so I just need to go home and take a little break or maybe do this or that." Nobody's gonna
yes,
hold it against you in your appraisal because लोगों को ही डर होता है ना कि this is something that the organization is going to hold against us कि अच्छा ये बंदा तो
yes,
handle ही नहीं कर सकता.
exactly.
Yes, organizations mostly have a corporate consultant or maybe a in-house psychologist available. Now, if you think again, why do they have those people? Because they are
Exactly.
aware that the kind of work that you're dealing with is capable of instigating a lot of insecurities and stress responses within your body. So there's no shame
Yes.
in admitting that you've been under a lot of stress and you're dealing with something.
Yes, and also like always like cut yourself some slack. Just
Yeah.
have this mentality. क्योंकि at the end of the day आप एक इंसान ही हो. You can't have the best of everything at once. There is some parts that you are going to lack in, and that's okay. That makes us human. That's what this is a shared experience. And as you mentioned earlier, कि online इतनी resources है, you can educate yourself, and then again we have great people like you who have invested their studies and their education into this field, and so they are here to help us. So really just again अपने साथ in touch रहें, अपने emotions के साथ in touch रहें, and just work on yourself at the end of the day, because this is the body you have, this is the mind you have, and so this mind is going to take care of yourself.
And
So
that
really really
lastly, I would say that the internal dialogue that you have inside your
yeah,
head is really important. So there are plenty of people
yes,
in the world who are going to drag you down. You don't have to be one of them.
yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Huh. There are like so many people that are out there to get you. Do not be that person. And again, just you mentioned ke have that internal dialogue, maybe journal, maybe write down your emotions. Again, talk to somebody you love, talk to, a therapist or a psychologist. This will help you. Again, thank you so much, Alina. Thank you so much for giving us your time and also like letting us know these healthy practices that we should do, and also like, making us aware about this internal dialogue practice. It is, I feel like काफी लोगों को help करेगी ये चीज. And again, thank you so much for your time, and everybody that joined the session, thank you so much. Every week we try to bring something new to the table. Every week we try कि कोई ना कोई topic जो है हम touch जरूर करें. And we felt like at this time we needed, really really needed to talk about this. So again, thank you, Alina.
Thank you.
Inshallah I'll see, yes, inshallah I'll see the audience next week with a new guest, with a new topic. So everybody have a good day, work on yourself, and celebrate yourself.